Tonight, we are going to be talking about channelers, mediums, and what I'm now calling vibrochuds. People who channel spiritual beings or dead people, either at the behest of others or as a service to humanity, as you'll find some believe they are actually a service to humanity. Now, my problem with these people, the reason that I think it's worthwhile to talk about, is because it's really similar to what we were dealing with the demonic possession crowd. It's really similar to what we were dealing with the Bob Larson crowd, where they prey on people's vulnerability, right? There's people who are desperate for help. There's people who are seeking help. There's people who want to get through something, get some closure on something, work through a trauma, and they find these people out there who say, I can tell you, I can give you that closure. I can tell you what's going on. I can settle this for you. And these people who are so desperate for that closure, or that unattainable certainty, will start to place their faith in these people, despite the fact that there really is no evidence to suggest that any of this is true or really happening. And in fact, if we look at the evidence, it would suggest the opposite is happening. It would suggest that nothing spiritual or otherworldly is in fact happening, and it's all incredibly within our realm of explainability, within the realm of explainability, right? For the people who claim to have these powers, I think that firstly, the claim is specifically unknowable. Like, the claim to the spiritual powers, they, within like defining those powers, will say that you can't detect them through scientific means, and that they manifest themselves uniquely in a way where like they elude capture. They're usefully elusive, right? They're usefully elusive in the sense that if you doubt it, well, that's just you noticing the elusive nature of the ability to measure these things, right? And they'll always say that there's like, the first thing that they'll say to get people to believe in this stuff is that there's certain things that we can't know, right? They'll be like, oh, well, there's an unknowable aspect to life and existence that we just can't have knowledge of through our earthly perspective. That's the first thing they'll say. But then they'll move to, well, because of this, there clearly is a spiritual realm or energies that science can't measure. They'll move into some other conclusion that's like, okay, well, clearly because we don't know, then it shows that there's other things out there because we don't know. So there must also be these other things, right? It's this weird certainty that they draw that like we can't question because the skepticism is embedded in their own definition of it, right? Or like the skepticism is answered in their own definition of it. It's the same as people who claim to hear God's voice, right? You'll hear Christians who claim to hear God's voice or experience God's love, but they can never describe it in a way that is compelling or even consistent amongst the people who claim that, right? And the problem with that is they will make this hard claim that they're experiencing something that like gives them certainty of this knowledge, but when tested and when asked to really provide some kind of explanation and understanding around it, they will just defer to special knowledge that they've obtained or experience to confirm that to confirm that their belief is valid, right? Something that I, as an outside observer, can't have access to. And they will claim that doubters, people who are skeptics, they'll claim that those skeptics can't experience it. They can't hear God's voice or experience God's love because they lack a belief, right? So because they don't believe, they don't hear it. So literally, what they end up moving to is start believing it and you'll see. And that's where we get motherfuckers like this, who have just bought into these ideas so hardcore that he thinks that he's an ascendant light being, like providing love and happiness to all of humanity, right? It moves from being a useful metaphor that helps you try to work through your traumas and moves into thinking that you have access to dimensions that are beyond like our knowledge and access and, you know, tangibility and everything, right? So that's one of my main problems with this, is that there's no way to really criticize a belief in this, because they try to say, okay, well, this kind of stuff escapes science, it escapes metrics, it escapes quantification, and is all about perception and personal experience. And until you know it, you can't know it, right? And until you submit to it, you can't experience it. And I've had, by the way, these thoughts before. I've participated in this sort of dialogue of thinking about consciousness, of being like, well, there's limits to our knowledge, and therefore there's probably energies science can't capture. I've participated in that. And in my opinion, it starts with recognizing that we really can't have knowledge of death or knowledge of certain things in the material world, right? Based on the way that our brains just based on the fact that our brains go off of perceptions, and there's things outside of our perceptions, right? It'll start with like, well, our eyes only see a certain amount of the light spectrum, so therefore there must be a lot of things we can't see, and those other things probably can affect and impact our world, right? So it takes this questioning of the unknown and it turns it into like a hope of something greater. And people who are in this belief are going to start to look for evidence that that thing is true, that whatever conclusion they've come to about the nature of reality is true. So they're going to look for any piece of evidence in their lives that can explain that, or can substantiate that belief, right? Which leads to privileging small examples and coincidences as empirical proof, right? So they'll be like, isn't it weird that she was thinking this and then he said it? That proves that our minds have energy fields that go between us, right? They'll take really, really small examples and ignore a plethora of examples that disprove that ideology and just verify their thinking. I think, taken as a metaphor, if you think about spirituality in the sense of trying to improve your mental state, trying to make yourself more conscious, more aware, more mindful, I think that's awesome. I think that everybody should do that. Make yourself aware of your habits, your routines, your ways of thinking, how your brain works when you're not conscious of it, right? That kind of stuff, I really, really think people need to hear more of. The problem is when spiritual metaphors get taken as a fact, then people start thinking that they're talking to ascended light beings, right? Like, that's the problem. You can think of it as something that's going to help yourself, and that's fine. Take it that way. But when you literally start thinking you're talking to ascended light beings who are timeless, like, you've taken a step towards insanity. You've taken a step away from that self-improving sense, and you've moved into self-delusion. So that's the lens we're going to be looking at this through. First up, we've got this psychic channels spirits through his body. I don't know who the fuck this is, but this dude seems pretty wealthy. I watched like the first 10 seconds of this and was like, this is one of the like only things we're watching today that was filmed in 1080p. So we're doing it. All right, let's see what this shit's all about.
Hello.
Hi.
And Red Eagle.
So one of the things that I find entertaining about this is that there's so many inconsistencies. Like, they'll each have a different way they experience it. They claim that that's part of it, that everyone manifests these spirits differently.
Always an honor and privilege to be in your presence, Gaia. Thank you for receiving us. We understand why we are here. I am Miriam of Magdala. Many of you are channeling me at this very moment. However, the way I come through you may be different than the way I come through Renee and Anthony. I don't want you to think that all the information that is being channeled through whomever it is wrong. Remember, each individual, each soul is going to channel my energy in a different way.
But what's so funny about it is you'll see that this dude literally puts on a voice where other people just speak normally, or some of them will like contort their faces as they talk like this.
Why are you wanting to be with me? I am George Floyd.
I miss you. I am
As if like the spirit is like giving them so much energy they can't control their face anymore. It's hilarious to hear him just like do some like straight up stereotypical Native American accent, be like, yes, hello, I am Red Eagle. This is Big Heap Fun. Like, what the fuck is this? It's so fucked.
My name is Sky, and I live in Los Angeles, California, where there is no shortage of gurus, healers, psychics, and all sorts of practitioners of various spiritual modalities.
Okay.
Here on my channel, Skylife, I love exploring metaphysical and spiritual topics.
I hate that misuse of metaphysics. It's just because I'm a philosophy person, but like, their idea of what metaphysics is, their idea of metaphysics is like magic physics. They think that that's what that means. Like physics, but like, you know, beyond physics. Like they don't really fucking understand what it means at all.
One of my friends told me I needed to meet this guy named Riz, a trance channel psychic medium. Trance channeling is the practice of entering into an altered state in order to channel various spirit guides.
You're gonna hear a lot of terms that they use that are jargon, but they don't define. Altered state.
The practice of entering into an altered state.
Right? The word altered state, or the phrase altered state. You think you know what that means. I think I know what that means, but they don't define it. And the usefulness of that is that whatever you think that means, that's what it means. There's just no, like, they don't have to like adhere to anything. It's like, oh, that's what you think it is? That's what it is. You got it. Good job.
Who will temporarily inhabit the physical body of the channeler to share important information and spiritual wisdom.
I think it's kind of ironic that it's always people who like look the part of spiritual channeler, you know, or spirit channeler, right? Like this dude, like if you had any doubt about what he did, like you just gotta like take one look at his house and him. And you'll be like, oh, got it. Yeah, no, you're either a spiritual person or you're a witchcraft person.
Here we are, the Riz Manor in Malibu.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, he's saging the house. Well, good move. You're bringing in outside agents, so you wanna cleanse that energy. That's one of those things, man. I love the smell of sage. The idea that it cleanses is like, based on what? Based on what? Based on ancient wisdom? Based on the fact that cultures have done it? Based on selective evidence that good things happened after you did it? Like, Jesus. Based on something someone once said maybe at some time.
Good, how are you?
Welcome.
Oh my gosh, you already got the sage going.
Hey, we got to make sure everybody is feeling really good and clean.
To be honest, if he didn't get the sage going, it's like he's not doing his job. It's like that's the one thing he has to do, is just know when to break out the sage.
So
That is the largest piece of sage I have seen.
I mean, of course, it's the largest piece of sage you've ever seen. He's a spiritual healer. He would need to have a large piece of sage. I will say again, just for anybody out there who feels like I'm just straight up shitting on spirituality, I think there's useful stuff in there. I don't think believing that you have the ability to fucking molest spirits is one of those useful things. I think that that is really fucked, because this money that he's getting is coming from people who place faith in that belief, right? It's not that they're gaining anything out of it. He's just preying upon their vulnerability, right?
This is like a little shower for the aura.
How can an aura get dirty? Like, what spiritual detritus does it accumulate? I assume that's what crystals were for, not sage. No, they're all for the same thing. It's all for healing, right? It's all for healing, and its usefulness is always down to whatever like they want it to do in that moment. If you've ever looked at some of the healing properties of these things, it will say everything. It'll be like, it relieves like, hypertension, it relieves stress, it's a mood elevator. Like they just like give you the most broad benefits possible, so that when you look at one thing versus another, you're basically unable to be like, why would I specifically use this or this? And then you go to like some Reiki master or some shit, and they'll be like, oh, well, you use the rose quartz when it's like love, because like love is like pink and like hearts are like pink, like the ones we draw, not our biological hearts, but like love is pink, so we use rose quartz. But if you're like dealing with like, I don't know, something like, I don't know, you're on the beach, you want to have like, sapphire, because like it's blue, or maybe lapis lazuli, because like the blue will resonate with the blue and the vibe will rise. That's like literally what they do. But when you look at those things on their own, it's like, these do everything, and like there's no hard claims at all.
I feel very
And
blessed.
a little for everybody out there, just breathe it in.
Yes, Vibe Tribe, breathe in the sage.
Vibe Tribe, yo, I love the idea of like, I don't know what spiritual people mean when they say vibration. It seems to mean so many different things. Like they have their own vibration, the earth has a vibration, yet there's a universal vibration. All these vibrations resonate in frequency with each other and they can rise and lower. It's so mind-numbingly stupid.
All right, come in and just take your shoes off.
Okay.
We
Are
just
you
never-
barefoot all the time or what?
I am, at least inside the house.
Right.
It's just like shoes bring in the energy of outside. And so we want to keep the energy in here pristine.
Wait, that's why he does it? Okay, this is weird to me, because these people will always talk about how we're interconnected, but then they'll say something like that, well, we're keeping this like a spiritual, we're keeping this like spiritually immaculate and insulated from the outside world. It's like, wait, but we're all interconnected. What are you talking about? Yeah, doesn't opening the door let the energy in? Like, how does he, it's just, this is what I mean by it's useful. It's only deployed when it's useful, right? Like they don't know how to like call their own beliefs into question, or like just like stop themselves from saying something that's just like a weird, not necessarily true contradiction, but like an implied contradiction or an inherent contradiction,
That's my great Uncle Merlin.
The problem is I can't tell if he's joking. Like, I wish I knew if he was joking. I want to be laughing with him, but he's laughing and it's making me concerned for him,
In all my past lives and my future lives, this would be the ultimate uncle to have.
I love whenever you have the conversation of past lives with people. They're like, yeah, I was a king and I had my own empire, so I was pretty cool 6 generations ago. Like, it's always some crazy ass shit. They're never just like, yeah, I've been a peasant and a serf for my entire lineage.
I channel Merlin, by the way. A lot of people think that Merlin is this figure in literature that doesn't exist, that he's part of some story that someone made up.
No, but Merlin was real. He's an ascendant master. He's part of the Circle of 9. He's a Pleiadian, and he's my uncle.
See, Merlin is a spirit guide who exists, who then channeled his information into the minds of those who wrote about him.
His information. I'm just going to point out all the vague jargon that they use that goes literally unquestioned. Nobody listens to this who believes in this stuff and goes, what do you mean by information? It's like just implied, and they just move the fuck on.
So that's why that iconic figure of the wizard is so powerful and started with Merlin, and it passed through different writers and different cultures.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people throughout the entire history of the world who've claimed to be magic men and prophets, But the difference is like believing that they were truly ascendant masters who could turn lead into gold. Like, that's the big difference here, right?
There's another spirit guide that I channel right there. That's Red Eagle. Red Eagle, when he speaks through me, my voice changes because he's basically using my body like a musician would use a guitar's body.
Which literally other people will claim is not how it works. Like, you will see somebody else claim like that they don't use different voice because they're using your vocal cords. Like, but this motherfucker uses that same argument. How do you play somebody else's vocal cords to sound like your own? That's so dumb. They're physical. Like, they have limitations, okay?
You want to see my office?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's go. Welcome, Sky.
Whoa! This is so cool.
Dude, I'm so beyond material things. I'm so beyond like the physical realm. I could live with whatever. I could live anywhere, however. And then this is the shit that they have. This is worse than like some fucking video game nerd. Like, this is worse than like some of the shit that you see on like streamer houses or like YouTube collections. Like people who like do video game channels on YouTube who have like massive collections of like, you know, Funko Pop toys and shit like that, or like anime figurines, or like my fucking background, right? Like, this is all digital, right? But this is literally, this is the equivalent. Like, I made this as like a tribute to my media diet, right? Like, that's what this is. It's like an ode to consumerism, an ode to like this world that I was born into that I had no control over, but that I had to seek meaning through, right? And they do the same exact thing, but they do it with wizards and dragons and birds and eggs and pine cones and crystals, and that is somehow beyond materialism. Like, fucking dumbasses, dude.
I feel like I just entered into another dimension.
You have.
This is a portal.
That just, the way that she got excited there also reminds me of how much they want this to happen. Like, how much they want these beliefs to be confirmed, you know?
So, for people who have no clue, how would you describe trance channeling?
So trance channeling to me is an inner technology. So I'm able to go into a deep trance state. So my consciousness is in another state.
Okay, but that doesn't mean anything.
I'm able to go into a deep trance state. So my consciousness is in another state.
Like, just because it's in an altered state or another state doesn't mean it has access to anything that's beyond this world.
I recently had a neurologist attach diodes to my head, and I trance channeled in that state. What he found was that within 20 seconds, I was able to go into a state that I should only be in that state after 4 hours of sleep. So he took that data and he said, well, I would think this person has narcolepsy. He goes, but the problem here is you were actually channeling and speaking during that brainwave state. Very conscious, very wise thoughts, right? The spirit guides speak all this wisdom that comes through.
Wait, okay, so he's just gonna move on from that, but none of that proves anything. The neurologist wasn't sitting there like, yeah, and this proves that you channeled otherworldly spirits. Like, that's the thing you have to prove. Not that you can put your brain into an altered state. That's not what you have to prove, because proving that your brain goes into an altered state doesn't prove that you then also can channel spirits. This is the dumbass logic that these people operate under. They hear that he can do something that puzzles scientists, and they go, wow, that must mean that he's doing something otherworldly, or he's doing something with the spirit world, or he's accessing the knowledge of light beings. Like, how do those two things follow in their mind? The burden of proof right now is for him to show us that that altered state means that he can channel spirits. So far, he's only showed us that he has the ability to go into an altered state. That's it. Don't draw too many conclusions from that. Like, God, dude. Doesn't say shit, but beyond, he can do something that scientists did not expect him to be able to do. That is the only thing that we can say for sure from that, right?
One of the main spirit guides that I channel, his name is Red Eagle. I was doing psychic readings for about a year, and I would notice that after the client left, I would still feel a presence in the room. And then one day I was doing an exercise called automatic writing. It's where you really relax your mind and let your hand just write whatever comes to you.
There's an emphasis on turning your mind off. And I think that that's also saying turn off your faculty to question what's happening. And they use that to say that questioning is going to stop you from experiencing it. It's very similar. It's weird, the more we look at it, how similar this is to people believing in demonic possession, because the church in that instance would say, you know, they would say, don't question the teachings so that you can find salvation. And if you do question the teachings, then you're moving closer to the devil and you're moving further away from God. And these people would say the same exact thing about physical reality. The more you ask questions, the less that you are going to be able to access these otherworldly forms of knowledge, right? As long as you keep yourself in the earthly knowledge, then you won't be able to break out of it. So it's a little fucked too. It's like, it's to say that people who question, people who are skeptical, would never be able to understand this. That's what I think is fucked up about it. Because now anyone who comes in and is like, I would like you to substantiate this like I am, or I would like you to prove this, has, it can be like laughed out of the room by the people who believe in this, because they're just like, you know, you are too focused on what you perceive as reality. That's what they would say.
And I had written probably 10 to 20 pages of random words, and suddenly my hand wrote, "Hello, I am Red Eagle." Now, I had never heard of Red Eagle, but he wrote it through my hand.
So what I would want to know in this instance is, how do you know that he wrote it? How do you know that your brain was turned off? How do you know that something took hold of you if you weren't in a conscious state? How can you corroborate this or substantiate this in any meaningful way? How can you eliminate all of the variables of your mental processes such that you can say that the writing was automatic? That's the thing here, is like the level of proof that these guys have to provide is so astronomically high that they have to rely on the, well, you just don't know defense, because they can't meet that burden. Like, that is way too high, dude.
All this chill came over my body, and I fell asleep. And I woke up, and I felt so good. I felt like I'd just been hugged by a grandfather or something.
By a grandfather or something? I feel like we're learning a little bit about Riz here.
I wanted to ask you how you would explain it to somebody who just thinks this is not real. Someone who says this is bullshit, he's acting.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. I'm glad I didn't watch this ahead of time. I did not know this question would be put forward to him.
How do you explain? You know, you're asking a really big question.
Oh God, here we go. This is what I was saying. The burden of proof is so high that they literally just have to say, someone who's skeptical just can't understand. That's my prediction here.
What do you say to skeptics? Skeptics are going to be there forever. I think that if Buddha had a Facebook page, he would have haters.
Okay, that doesn't mean anything. Just because skeptics will be there doesn't mean that some of them aren't valid.
And some of the people who actually have been waiting for those people to come back would be the first to hate on them and say, you're not the real one. Because the real one would never have a Facebook page. Well, how do you know Buddha wouldn't? Yeah, I think Buddha would have a Facebook page and an Instagram.
In today's world, you gotta get the message out.
Thank you, right?
There was no answer in there. Wait, he actually didn't answer the question. He's like, there's always gonna be haters. I can't stop people from hating. I love that skepticism and criticism is equal to hate. Is what I'm doing right now, hate. Because I'm not blindly accepting everything you have to say on its face. It's hate. Because I don't just eat up every word you say and go like, yeah, dude, you're in an altered state, man. You had this spirit guardian, Red Eagle, this ascendant light being communicate through you, that there were messages you needed to give to people. I fully accept that. Because I don't do that, I'm a hater. What a dumbass. What a little baby bitch, too. Like, he can't even think about, like, the first line of defense. It's just, haters gonna hate, dude.
This debate goes back and forth, like, are psychics real, are mediums real? How come you don't know this if you know this? But that's not how it works. A psychic is supposed to know whatever they're supposed to know in that particular reading for a particular purpose to help that person go to the next step.
Okay, what did that mean?
This debate goes back and forth, like, are psychics real, are mediums real? How come you don't know this if you know this? But that's not how.
What does that second question mean? He starts with a real question. How do you know psychics are real or mediums are real? And then he says, how do you know this if you know this? As if that's somehow illustrating the structure of that question but it's just nonsense. And then he moves on to say, like, we can't know anything for certain, and that's it? What the
How it works. A psychic is supposed to know whatever they're supposed to know in that particular reading.
A psychic is supposed to know whatever they're supposed to know in that reading. What does he mean by supposed to know? What does he mean by, you found the painting for real? That's hilarious. What does he mean by that? A psychic is supposed to know what a psychic is supposed to know for that particular reading. So, literal tautology. And then, what does he say this explains? So this tautology explains what?
For a particular purpose to help that person go to the next step. You know.
So I'm a psychic, so I understand these things because I'm a psychic, and I'm supposed to understand things like this to help you to go to the next step. That's what that sentence said. I can help you because I'm a psychic, and I'm supposed to know these things because I'm a psychic, so I can help you. And haters are gonna hate. Whoa, okay. If somebody listens to this and actually thinks that he said something there, I don't know if you are able to like watch the news and understand reality. Like I seriously doubt your ability to operate in the like mundane world. Like that is I'm very concerned about your critical faculties. Like
I feel compelled to like go into a reading.
Right now.
Yeah.
Wait, Hyperion, you're saying something. He's compelled to go into a reading. We'll pause right there. I think the point of the question is, if you're psychic, why don't you know everything instead of select information? But the way he tried to answer that, because you're right, that sounds like that actually does sound like the question he's trying to answer. But it started with, how do you settle skeptics? And he was like, well, everybody wants to know if psychics are real, if mediums are real, but like, they want to know, like, if you know this, how come you don't know that? And like the psychic, okay, yeah, no, he is answering that. Okay, now I see it. But he's still not actually giving us anything of substance, right? Because he's still just saying a psychic is supposed to know what they're supposed to know because they're a psychic, and that's how they help you, right? My follow-up question is, if you're supposed to take me up to the next step, why don't I just go to a therapist who will also help me overcome certain obstacles? I would love to know his answer to that, because what I think he would say, because you would assume he would be like, well, that's good, I want you to get help in any way. But what I think he would say is that psychology is built up of scientific understanding, and scientific understanding is incomplete. So relying on science will never give you a complete picture. That is what I think the answer would be, and that is so sad. And just like, I can picture so many people buying into that line of reasoning, right? This is like where anti-vaxxers come from, right? Like it's literally where like flat earthers, anti-vaxxers, like that's the same line of thinking that they operate under. Science can't answer everything, so I can't trust science. Ugh, dude. All right, let's see. He's getting in the mood to channel. Let's see what he does when he channels.
Are we gonna channel now or?
No, we'll channel later.
Okay.
I want to kind of go into family. I'm starting to see a little bit of the family energy.
The family energy. Okay. What is there also like girlfriend energy, mother-in-law energy? Jesus
I want to
Christ.
speak about the father energy. Father's still
Oh my God, what is this?
with us, but he's very strong. I know he's alive. I can
Well, he's a father. He's strong, of course.
feel. So first of all, I want to say that I feel a strong chi, and that means a strong life force energy, but I'm getting very blocked up here. So neck and shoulders, I'm getting very, very blocked. And this is...
This is already so weird. Oh my gosh.
He's not saying anything. Just saying, I feel a father, I feel a strong presence, I'm getting a lot of chi in my body, but not in my head. And she's like, oh my God, when you say those things, I can picture my father. That's so crazy, bro. That's literally what's happening. Like, it's so dumb. Yeah, has she never heard of a cold reading before? Like, This is so obviously what's happening.
Cold reading is used by psychics, mediums, mentalists, and more. It's a technique where the reader seemingly knows everything about the person they are talking to. It can be extremely impressive and even tip into the seemingly supernatural realm. Now, as a disclaimer, in order for a cold reading to fully work, it's necessary to select the correct people to read. The reading will go far more smoothly. For instance, all college-age students are going to be facing some big changes in their lives as they begin their existences apart from their household, blah blah blah. You get the picture.
To show how people fall for this, some years ago for Good Morning America, I had an astrologer do a chart on a mass murderer, Ed Kemper.
Let me pass these out.
Then I gave it to these students, telling them it was their horoscope.
Charlotte Hunter?
Would the mass murderer's horoscope capture their personality? You bet.
I love me.
I don't know if I was a believer or a non-believer. I was kind of like in the middle. But this is most of it is me.
How many feel that this came pretty close to capturing you? Okay, I hate to tell you this, but you all got the same horoscope.
His mouth is just squirting out bullshit. Exactly, and just hoping she latches on. Feeling like a father energy, that father's like really strong. Like, it's just, yeah, sure, most dads are going to be strong. Sure, most dads are not going to be like emotionally mature because of patriarchal structures and how they've been implemented in our society historically. So this is most likely everyone's dad. People who are watching this are probably like, he's describing my dad. Oh my God, that's father energy. You know it. That's father energy right there. That's how I know he's telling the truth. Like,
how do you know this? Oh my God. This was super, super crazy right off the bat because my dad has had shoulder problems for years and has had multiple shoulder surgeries. And there is no way that Riz could have known this information.
And he didn't say that. And he didn't say that information. There's no way he could have known it. And he didn't say it. So what, dude? If he was sitting over here like, oh, there's like a shoulder surgery that your dad went through recently, fine. But he didn't do that. Instead, he's like, shoulder, upper body, chi.
So first of all, I want to say that I feel a strong chi, and that means a strong life force energy, but I'm getting very blocked up here. So neck and shoulders, I'm getting very, very blocked.
And she's like, his shoulder surgery. How did you know? Fuck me, dude.
So the reading was actually so crazy, but it's really long, so I'm just gonna give you a quick summary. It turns out that Riz was spot on about so much, and it was all stuff that you couldn't just look up.
Was there anything he wasn't spot on about? This is what I mean by being selective with the evidence that they use. Like, yeah, there's things that confirm your belief. Were there things that didn't? Bring those to the table.
Didn't just look up via my YouTube channel or my social media. He knew all sorts of specific information about my family and my past. And
notice she's not being specific anymore. She was being specific. She was like, he talked about my dad's shoulder, which he didn't. She just decided to hear that. But then she goes on to say he knew lots of other specifics. So because we heard one thing, right? We go on, like, if we're not questioning her at all, we go on to take for granted that he did say other things that he couldn't have known. But without an example, it's like, well, what else did he fucking say? You know?
Everyone has spirit guides. These are the non-physical presence or beings that are referred to in every culture. All the religions mention that there are angels around you.
That doesn't prove anything. This is ancient aliens thinking. Just because some people were like, they're spirits, doesn't mean they're spirits. Just because post-enlightenment thinking says we privilege evidence and we don't see spirits, doesn't mean that we had it right before, because for centuries we were just assuming they're spirits. Like, they believe that it's what we heard before, that skepticism is just skepticism. That if you have a belief in something, that is a more privileged form of understanding than having evidence or reason, right?
I feel them. They each have distinct personalities. Some of them have names. They are here not to interfere in your life, but to help nudge you when you need some nudging.
Why are they, the one big thing for me is why are they here for us? And this is such a, this is where we get into, this is such a like human desire to have these unseen guides who care for our well-being, like to make us feel comfort in the fact that we might live in a purposeless and meaningless world, right? Like it might be so hard for us to feel like the world has no meaning and might be purposeless. So it's so comforting to think that there are these spiritual guides all around us who guide us, and that's their job. But why would that be the case? It gets back to very religious thinking where like the universe was built for us. But why would that be the case? Why would the universe be built for us? So dumb.
You have a spirit guide. Her name is Claire. C-L-A-I-R-E.
Okay.
He's very like almost French. He doesn't from French Canada.
Yeah,
he is from French Canada.
Yeah.
Does he speak French?
Yeah.
She has the energy of a ballet dancer. She has the energy of like Marie Antoinette like times.
I love that these spirits too, like are all so resonant in human ways. Like, how are they all so human if they're these otherworldly beings that are beyond our reach? Like, it's so dumb. Exactly, what is the energy of a ballet dancer? We've got family energy, father energy, and ballet dancer energy within the span of 2 minutes of this video.
Okay, so I actually asked my dad after this reading, hey, do we have any family who have passed away named Claire? And he's like, oh yeah, actually, your grandmother's godmother was Claire Langlais.
That proves it, dude. That proves it, dude. Your grandmother's godmother. So what would not have fit there? Like, that's someone who's not even in your bloodline, dog. Your grandmother's godmother is removed from your fucking bloodline. Could you just have had a neighbor? Like in the past, like, yeah, actually, our neighbors. Your grandmother's neighbor was Claire. How did the psychic know? And she was a ballet dancer.
So, Spirit Guide Claire, wherever you are, I want you to know that I believe in you, I feel your presence, and you can feel free to keep telling me that I deserve to be rich.
She literally thinks that her grandmother's godmother is hanging out with her, helping her to enjoy her wealth. Dude.
Okay, so grandmother, mother's mother. Okay, so she's here now, and I see her through your face.
Wow.
For some reason, I feel like there's a part of her that I almost want to say wasted away inside of her and was very depleted. I don't know if she was an alcoholic or not.
Wow, you mean someone who in the past, probably growing up in Great Depression era times, going through World War II and the baby boomer generation, probably taking care of a family at home by herself and having to deal with what comes with that at a time when women didn't have a lot of power or stake in society, that somebody like that might feel dead inside. Oh, whoa. Dude, he's just taking common things, common traits, common experiences that people would have in a certain age band and being like, oh, I feel this person here. Is she your grandmother? And it's like, yeah, maybe her grandmother went through that, but it doesn't prove any. Oh, God, it's so dumb, dude. The fact that these people are like, that resonates. Wow, this extremely common experience that people of this generation had and my grandmother also happened to have tells me, like, the fact that he knows that that's what she went through tells me that it's her. It's so fucking dumb, dude.
But she's letting me know that there was some major problems, okay?
She had alcoholic tendencies, I think.
Got it, okay.
She loved partying, social.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
But she sees that you have the same tendencies, not alcohol, but of running your engines really high like her.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's gonna make sure that you don't do that.
Okay.
Okay?
Somebody who you know is a social media influencer who probably is on camera like all the time or editing their videos, you can probably assume has a high energy drive. Like, you could probably say that for anybody who you know has a very active lifestyle. That is not something that is unique unto her. and he did not have a unique way of perceiving that beyond just sitting down with her and assuming things about her life.
After this reading, I was confident that Riz is a real psychic medium with some very special abilities, but I was still skeptical about this whole channeling thing.
Well, that's not a lot to convince you of. You're sure that he's talking to spirits around you. You're just not sure if he can have them talk through him. That's not a lot to convince you of there. I think he can do it.
Well, I will ask you, Sky, to be a part of it. When I do my channeling in front of people, I ask everyone to do the small meditation with me. It'll just be about 20 seconds. Surround yourself with light. Imagine that this point of light is emanating from a point between your eyebrows. It is a beautiful iridescent light with many colors, glowing in and out, getting bigger and brighter. A circle of light around your body, a circle of light maybe 2 to 3 feet around you in every direction.
So people who don't know, this is called a Merkaba. He's trying to manifest his body's light vehicle to take him as a chariot would to the realm of the ascendants. And it sounds like I'm joking. This is literally what they believe. I am not joking. Look up Merkabas. Could it be any more stereotypical? And it's like, you aren't going to see other motherfuckers who do this do the motherfucking Om chant. Like, he's the only one who's doing his mudras over here. Nobody else does this. Like,
hello.
Hi.
And he's also the only one who puts on a voice, dude. The voice, dude. Literal red face right now. Oh, hello.
Many people feel that it's the end of the world. Many people feel they have a kind of breakdown happening. But that is what is called a spiritual death. Then you have a spiritual rebirth. What happens when you are born?
He's trying so hard with this accent, man. Yeah, like, it's shifting all over the place. It's not consistent. Like, it started at first, it sounded a little Native American at first, but definitely shifted towards like a Slavic Russian. And then it like started to move back, but it stays in that realm. Like a spirit who's like transcended its own body and physical being, like still somehow manifests the voice that's tied to its physical being. Like if I were an energy being, I should not sound like this because my vocal cords are making the noise.
First starting very small, then you grow for 9.
First starting very small, yes, and then you'll get the spiritual guidance that you need to live a happy life. My name is Red Eagle. I'm here to solve your problems. I'm your spiritual guide. I'm Native American.
Months. Then you feel the energy and the nurturing of the mother. Then you are pushed
of the mother
out of the canal, the tunnel that is going through.
The canal. Dude, he really does just sound Russian. They come out of the canal. Like, back in Russia, we have these canals we have to crawl through to get to work, through the mud. Like, he literally sounds like that.
The new life. The mother is in pain. The baby is being squeezed through a narrow space. There is blood. There.
Okay, I can't. I gotta try. What the fuck? Is he just describing birth?
Then you have a spiritual rebirth. What happens when you are born? You are first starting very small, then you grow for 9 months. Then you feel the energy and the nurturing of the mother. Then you are pushed out of the canal, the tunnel that is going through to the new life. The mother is in pain. The baby is being squeezed through a narrow space. There is blood, there are tears, there is sweat, there is danger.
So the more this guy speaks, the more I'm concerned we're dealing with somebody who has a narcissistic God complex. And in my own kind of like exploration of these ideologies, one thing that becomes clear very quickly is a sort of satanic belief of the like fact that we don't know of God, but we can be the master of our own realm, of our own universe, right? So these guys start to believe that they are their own gods and that they have access to specialized knowledge that other people wouldn't because of the endeavors that they've taken, right? So this guy is starting to give me those vibes. Like, he no longer seems like he's just trying to grift for the sake of getting people to believe that he has access to a spiritual world. He seems like he's trying to play the role of a prophet, right? The channeling kind of changed the flavor for me. These are all facts. What's he trying to say? He's talking about spiritual rebirth. He's talking about the afterlife right now and saying that when you go to the afterlife, you will be reborn a new baby that comes out of your mother's vaginal canal. But instead of your mother, it's your spiritual guardian angel. And she says, your new name is Josiah and welcome to heaven. So he's just describing that process right now.
You're not dying and going to stay dead. You're going through a spiritual death. You're going to be reborn. It is a rebirth happening for you. You cannot avoid that.
Yo. The spirit knows to look into the cameras in dramatic ways. Like, that's not an ascendant being who doesn't care about appearances or materiality. That is a dumbass who's pretending to channel a spirit, talking in a weird Russian Native American accent that's trying to convince us that he's speaking about some deeper truths about the world. Like, holy shit, dude.
That all the people on the planet experiencing the same thing. So everything is about oneness. Everything for you. You think it does not exist? It is underneath everything. You don't have to try to create it, you have to surrender to it.
This is what I'm saying, dude. This is what I'm saying. This is why I was saying, start believing it and you'll see. You can sum up these people's ideas and their arguments as start believing it, you will see it. Until you believe it, you won't see it. Until you open your eyes, you won't see it. Until you submit. He's almost saying submit here, right? Because he's like, don't run away from death. Submit to it. Submit to the reality.
And how do you surrender to it? You have to surrender to love. What love? There is no love. All I see is people fighting, hating, destroying. The love you were born as when you were birthing.
When you were birthing?
By seeing the baby, because the baby, you and you were that baby. Just remember, you can be reborn to yourself as many times as you want, even every day. Bless you.
So, I'm going to go back to what I was saying before. This is, if we take this as a metaphor, this is great. Not the full thing. Not 90% of it. Literally just that last sentence. Like, you could be reborn every day. That idea that you have the capacity to shape your being and your perception and your understanding consciously such that it would make a meaningful difference in the way that you live your life each day, that is a great takeaway. When it moves into, I know this because I speak to light beings and they told me the truth, well, we got a problem. Like, if you want to sit there and tell me that I should be conscious, that I should place less importance in materiality, that I should seek my own self-betterment, that's fine. Stop telling me that I need to do it through your methods, right? I can seek my own betterment. That's fine. I don't need to come to your conclusions and your understanding. Like, he's literally telling us in this, submit to this knowledge, submit to this understanding, right?
Be well. Yeah.
So what is my conclusion about all of this? First of all, I want to say that I love Riz. I think he's an incredible person. He's super kind. He's clearly very talented, and he genuinely wants to help people.
How did he help you? What did he do for you? What was the help? Told you that there's like a love being that's controlling him? Like, what did he do to help? Where's the help? Yo, Slam Bars, I'm surprised you have any respect for her. I mean, she has bought into his shit from the moment this video started. She was like, wow, this is all so amazing. Like, to her, open-mindedness is believing. And like, because she hasn't been able to push back on him effectively, she's just made this video so much more, she's given this video so much more of an ability to convince people that this is real, right? Just through her lack of ability to push back against him and ask questions that a skeptic would ask, like, or provide that perspective. Like, somebody looking into this hears her ask that one question where she's like, oh, what do you say to skeptics? And then he says, well, I'm a psychic, and a psychic should know what a psychic should know, and a psychic does what a psychic does, so I'm going to help people, right? And then doesn't push back against that and is like, yeah, that's a really powerful message. Like, she's just giving him a platform to spew his shit.
Do I believe he was actually channeling a real Native American chief who lived over 100 years ago named Red Eagle? I honestly don't know. I believe that he believes he is, but personally, I don't know enough about channeling to have any idea whether or not this stuff is actually real. I would probably have to study and investigate this topic for a really long time to have any type of conclusion around it.
So the problem with her saying this is that she's saying she would have to do a lot of research to form a conclusion, but like she's kind of already formed the conclusion that she's going to believe until she has evidence not to believe. Like, shouldn't you lack a belief until you see the proof? Why would you just believe it partially, but also not fully believe it? Like, what?
But it is really fascinating, and it's something I would love to revisit. So if you want to see another video with Riz and Red Eagle and more information about channeling that you like what I'm
Nope, and I don't like what you're doing. I'm sorry, dude. You're not helping the world in the way that you think you are. There's, normally I wouldn't be critical of her position too much, but she's literally doing the equivalent of like platforming anti-vaxxers. You know what I mean? Like, she's platforming harmful ideologies for people who would be seeking comfort or closure, right? And she's allowing those beliefs to be perpetuated in these spiritual healers who are just trying to take advantage of people's vulnerabilities. So no, I really don't respect your position. It's